John Van Deusen. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, John?
I'm good. Welcome to the Popko Project Podcast. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, today is October 30th, and we've got a new album coming out in a couple days, right?
hmm November
November
1st.
November 1st, my birthday.
Oh,
So
happy early birthday.
happy birthday to me. We got a new
Yeah,
album. Um, I've actually never heard of you before until like a couple of weeks ago. And I'm
awesome.
I'm very glad that we're doing this because I dipped into some of your previous stuff, and then obviously a couple of the songs are available now that are going to be on this new album,
hmm
and it's awesome. You've got a great voice.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean the songs I've heard, these songs are big. They're big songs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the build up to these songs, and then the chorus hits, and it's just like they're just really big. And I'm told that your music is kind of for fans of Foxing, Tiny Moving Parts, and Tiger's Jaw.
Yeah. It's funny when I read that list of bands, I think that's like the publicist at work, doing their job.
Yeah.
But I've never listened to any of those bands.
Okay.
So I was kind of like, okay, cool. I just trusted the publicist that's what they would say. But I if somebody asks me, I don't think I would say those bands because I don't even know what they sound like. I'm assuming they're all alt rock bands, but I have no idea.
Yeah. Tiny Moving Parts for sure. Um, I can I can kind of hear Tiger's Jaw. Actually, I'm friends with that band. They're from
Uh,
where I'm from,
Where are you from?
Scranton, like Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, PA.
Yeah,
Can I tell you what I kind of hear in your music?
please. I'd be really interested.
Death Cab for Cutie,
hmm
Twin Atlantic. Are you familiar?
Never heard
Okay.
Twin Atlantic. Yeah.
Uh, Vertical Horizon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's amazing. That you are definitely the first person to ever say that. But I mean, those two massive hits, um, like especially those types of big 90s choruses,
Hmm.
I think that tracks. Like I would say that I write kind of similar choruses for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And then last one, Frightened Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Frightened Rabbit is one I've gotten more frequently. The band I played in previously was called The Lonely Forest. We were kind of we never played with Frightened Rabbit, although we played with a lot of bands from Scotland that they were in the same scene. So that one I've heard before. Um, yeah, that's great. And Death Cab for Cutie, is from Western Washington where I live,
Okay.
and their guitar player Chris Waller produced two Lonely Forest records. So
Oh,
we
wow.
Yeah, I toured with Death Cab for Cutie. So, anyways, that one actually tracks as well. I would say Anthem Sprinter, for example, it feels like it's a little more muscly than Frightened Rabbit or Death Cab. So I
Hmm.
would throw some like earlier Foo Fighters or any band that has like really big drum sounds. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then just those basic bar chord through you basically bar chords through a fuzz pedal. I mean, that's kind of my thing. So
Right. Yeah. Well, it was more vocally for Death Cab than anything else.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about you, right? And I try not to do too much research beforehand because I want to kind of learn about you organically. So please, the floor is yours. Tell me a little bit about yourself, like kind of your history, and like I said, we got this new album coming out, and kind of where you are now.
Well, I live in Anacortes, Washington State, which is basically in the San Juan Islands up near Canada. And Anacortes, this is where I grew up. And Anacortes is known for its underground, independent and experimental music. So I actually grew up around a very vibrant community of music. I grew up in a very rich scene, and I've always made music, even in this scene, that would be considered pretty like poppy by comparison to what is typically being made in Anacortes. But I kid you not, anywhere I've been in the world, um, like overseas, when people hear that I'm from Anacortes, a lot of them have a reference, like they have some context for where I'm from because of the music that's come from Anacortes. So I think I was really shaped by the scene I grew up in, very much a DIY, like punk ethic. Um, and yeah, I started writing and recording and releasing music when I was a young teenager and started touring my senior year of high school. So I didn't even go to high school my senior year. I took online courses. And so I've been making music um, for quite a while. I just turned 37. So I I love making music for a long time. It was my job. I thought it was going to be my career. The band I played in, we were on, um, we did some stuff with Atlantic and then Universal Republic, and so like we were kind of floating around. Probably like a lot of the bands you've talked to who have like a major label, like a moment with majors, and then they just kind of
Yeah.
implode, and it doesn't go the way you think it will go. So I started releasing these solo records under my own name just because I had so many songs left over. And I love making albums. Like, I'm not a singles guy. Like, I love the art of making a record. And I had so many songs left over, so I just started doing it for fun as a solo artist. And so Anthem Sprinter is my fifth solo record.
Hmm.
And some of these songs have been around since I was like 14, 15, 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of history, and the sound itself, it even sounds like something I would have been listening to at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. Because I
Okay.
was inundated in Pacific Northwest, like indie rock, post grunge, and some of those like some, I guess, some pop punk and stuff. So, anyways, I've been making music a long time, and I've never had any real success, but it's just become such a part of who I am. I do it, it's therapeutic to me, it's cathartic. Like, I can't imagine living a life. Like, I can't imagine if I suddenly just stopped making records. I think I would just, I don't know what would happen to me, but it wouldn't be good, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's not possible.
Yeah.
I
So,
always say there people are put on this earth to do certain things, and I think that's true with musicians. I mean, you're here to create, and it's part of who you are and what you'll always be.
yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
You
So,
know, I usually say this question for last, but since we're kind of like right there around it, like, as an artist and as creators and things like that, you know, your music will live on, forever, right? Further than you'll be alive, unfortunately. But with that being said, like what do you kind of hope to leave behind? Whether it's personally or, through your music, like what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
well, I think personally, there's a proverb that says a good reputation is better than silver. And I I think about that a lot now that I'm in my 30s. And so I would say personally, I really want people to remember interactions with me as, life-giving, encouraging moments. Like, I really want to leave behind a legacy like that. Obviously, I want my children to be healthy and, people who bring peace to the world and empathy and wisdom to the world. So I think about that a lot as well. Musically, I would say I very seriously want to leave behind a body of work that is varied and interesting. My ultimate goal would be that my discography, like let's say 20 years after I'm dead, somebody finds one of my LPs in a used vinyl shop, right? They listen to it, they really like it, and then they think, what else can I find from this artist I've never heard of? My hope would be that they would start to dig in and they would be alarmed at how consistent and like good it is. Because I don't really make like attention grabbing music, I would say, but I've worked really hard at my songcraft and I love writing just kind of like emotional, catchy music. And so I really want people to discover my music and as they dig through the different releases, just be surprised, but also really intrigued by how much good content there is. So I would think that's every artist's goal, but I actually think about it quite frequently.
Do you? I, I
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if it's my age too that I just started thinking about it a lot just because like And I always go back to this. I kind of feel like an idiot because I say it almost every time I do one of these. But my dad passed away. It'll be 20 years next year. I was 22 years old, and like what I wouldn't give to like have a voicemail that I could still like hear his voice. Like it was so
Mm.
long ago, and I forget what he sounded like, and to be able to have that. So like me doing this, my kids will have something to reference, when I'm gone, and
Yeah,
hopefully, it goes further than that even. But um, and people go down a rabbit hole and they find new artists and they come across your stuff and they go down the rabbit hole, and I just think that's kind of cool. It's like a cool like, and that's like creators, right? Whether you're a musician or a painter or an author or any of those things, like that's gonna live on so much longer than we will.
yeah, yeah, you're right. Um, it is a beautiful thing to be able to leave um, a legacy that has, I guess in your case, like audio and video attached to it, or in my
Yeah.
case, like songs. I mean, some of my songs, even in the last couple of records I've released, have been open letters to my children.
Wow.
And I've even written some that are open letters, but the lyrics are somewhat cryptic because I want my children to ruminate, like, what did dad mean by this? It's not super literal. It's actually a little bit abstract. And so, um, yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to leave something behind. And also, it's interesting, if I might say this, after what you said about your dad. My dad's 70, maybe one. And the other day, I was looking at my voicemails, and I had like a three or four unlistened to voicemails from my dad, my pops, and I was like, I had a moment where I almost didn't delete them because I was like, I should keep these around.
Mhm.
And so what you've said reminds me that like those things are worth keeping.
For
And
sure.
and it doesn't have to be a meaningful voicemail. It could be a like, hey, call me back,
Yeah.
just and so anyways, I not to like dig deeper into something that obviously is really meaningful and like tangible and emotional for you, but like I actually had that thought maybe a day or two ago
Yeah.
as I was deleting those voicemails. So that's a good lesson for me. I'll think about it more.
Yeah. My mom, I have my mom's thankfully still alive, and I still have voicemails of hers in my phone that I just won't. There might be eight of them. I don't know why I have eight of them, but it's storage on a phone, not important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So, but I feel like you said this is your fifth album. How is this one different from your previous records?
Well, it kind of sounds like a Lonely Forest record in a lot of ways, which is the band I was in. The drummer on this record is the drummer who played in the Lonely Forest. The songs, a good handful of them were written during that era. Um, I wrote one of the songs, "My Regret Is a Pit." I started writing that at Sound City, the studio,
Oh wow.
when we were recording our third full length, The Lonely Forest. So like I can kind of go back and I can see the times and the places where I wrote them. Um, so in some ways, it sounds like my old music. I did record these songs at the same time as I recorded my third solo record. We recorded like 24 songs in 8 days or something,
Wow.
and then we just split them up into two batches. And when I signed to Tooth and Nail Records, they licensed one batch and then a second batch. So this is the second batch of songs. So this record actually kind of sounds similar to my third solo record because they were recorded at the same time,
Sometime.
same gear, stuff like that. But in a lot of ways, John, it actually sounds like something, like I said, I would have listened to when I was 19, 20 years old. And I would say the music I'm making now, as in like the record I've been recording in the last 8 months, because I should be clear, Anthem Sprinter was recorded like 6 years ago. So I've been making a record currently, and there is like, I'm sure if you listened to it, you would be able to tell I'm the same artist, but my tastes have evolved. I actually I like Yeah, I like slightly different sounds. I'm really interested in noise in general, so like noise music, and so my new record has more noise on it. Guitar noise.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever listened to like Sonic Youth and bands like that in the past, but
Hmm.
so I just Yeah, it's also a pretty depressing kind of like melancholy record, Anthem Sprinter is, and it has a lot of breakup songs, and I've been married since 2010, so it's been a long time since I've gone through a breakup, but
Right.
so lyrically, it feels a little, it almost feels like it's from another lifetime
Right.
for me.
It kind of is.
Yeah, quite literally. The newest song on the record is called Before You Fade Away, and it what I often will do, I'll write a song, and instead of writing about one circumstance or one story that I'm like thinking about or pondering upon, I'll think about like three or four different instances in my life that I'll share some common theme or feeling, and I'll think about them all at the same time. And then I'll sit down and I'll write the lyrics. And so the lyrics become almost like a collage of different experiences that then I think go together somehow. And so Before You Fade Away is about losing people to mental health issues. It's about suicide. It's a very heavy topic, but it's not just about one suicide. You know, I lost my uncle to suicide when I was 10. Um, People around me, but also just people in my town. I live in a small town. And so, you know, I can think about those all at once, and I can sit down to write the lyrics. And so they become this kind of like amalgamation of all those experiences. Um, so Before You Fade Away, even though it's 3.5 years old, it in many ways is from another lifetime because I'm simultaneously considering like five or six things that have happened in my life. Most of them are old from my
Right.
childhood.
Yeah, suicide's a heavy thing, right? Like I feel so badly for people who do that because I can't imagine like what put them to that point where they thought there was no other escape, there was no other way out. Like
Hmm.
I pray that I never like ever have to have those thoughts because I can't imagine what that's like.
It's it's difficult, I will say, as somebody who's had moments in my life where I guess I wouldn't have called myself suicidal, but like where I've had moments where my depression was heavy enough that like the thought of being done, finished somehow, was really appealing.
Mhm.
It's very difficult to describe. I think some people are driven to suicide because of shame and self-hatred, um, and that's so heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Um, and we should probably say, right? Anytime we talk about the subject, like if anybody's listening, like
right.
there are so many resources for you. I mean, you literally just Google um, suicide helpline and you will find probably a dozen. The top three or four results will be people you can call literally right now who will be able to listen to you and walk you through these things because sometimes that's all it takes is talking
Right.
to another human.
Yeah.
I had a guy tell me once, he came up to me, I played some music and spoke at a youth group. And the youth leader told me that an old Lonely Force song called Blackheart versus Captain America had kind of like kept him alive for like an extended period of time. Like he listened to it every night. And I was thinking about that. If that was the only thing my music did for anybody, like if that was the one thing, I say this with 100% sincerity. It's like I've done it.
For
It's like
sure.
I don't need anything else. So anyways, you're right. It's a very heavy subject, but it's a very real subject.
Hmm.
And especially for teenagers right now who are feeling disconnected and yeah, it's a crisis. So,
It's yeah. I mean, living in today's world, and I have two kids. They're 6 and 2. So I mean, there aren't a lot of outside influences. They're not on social media. They're not. Um, they're my daughters too. So like, she doesn't have a friend group. With influences.
yeah.
So I'm I get nervous about them and growing up, and it's much different than you and I growing up. Um, but I think we're addressing these things more than ever, right?
Hmm.
So hopefully that helps. But I mean that song Before You Fade Away is a beautiful song.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that too, because like music in general, like I talk to so many musicians, and so many times there's always a band that like one song resonates with someone. And for example, that you just had, it's literally saved someone's life or extended it. I don't know what happened to that person, but
Yeah, yeah, it feels I feel very honored
yeah,
to have found my way into an art form that other people can draw meaning and strength from. And I'm a faith adjacent artist, right? So I sing about my faith, and um, but I've actually released more non-faith, I guess, for lack of a better term, music than I have faith-based. And um, some of the things people say, it just blows me away.
yeah,
And it's probably the greatest honor of my life, second only to like being a dad and a husband. So um, it's an amazing thing. And it's for me, there have been songs that have kept me alive. Have you ever heard the song "Don't Give Up" by Peter Gabriel? It features Kate Bush.
I'm sure they have. Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's funny. I think it was a single, which is kind of crazy to me. The '80s were a weird time. But I remember I was driving once to Seattle, and sometimes when depression, especially in the past, it would hit me, and it was like it's like a wave falls upon you, and your worldview, the lens in which you see everything, your senses, the way your brain is taking in information, it shifts, and the world just feels too heavy.
yeah,
It's too much. And there's this Peter Gabriel song, and Kate Bush sings this line where she just says, "Don't give up." And I'm not kidding, like it had such an impact on me in the car. And so it's amazing, and it's such an honoring thing to be able to connect with art that way, and to be somebody who's made art that connects.
yeah.
So
I mean, again, I said earlier that I think people are put on this earth to do certain things, and um, musicians and creating music and however they connect with their audience in whatever way. I mean, I think that's we all need that. So thank you for doing what you do.
you're welcome.
Um, I know we don't have too much time.
We're okay. I just so you know, I don't want you to feel like my kids will start getting ready for bed around 6:40, and it'd probably be good for me to be helping them with that. I don't know where you live, but it's 6:20 my time
Dude,
basically.
I
So
totally get it. That's why I do these so late. So thanks for making the time for me because it's 9 o'clock where I am with almost 9:20. I do this at night. I do the whole dad thing. Come home from work, do dinner as a family together, do the homework, do the books before bed, do bath, whatever it is, and then I get it. So I won't keep you, but 'cause that's so important, and that's the greatest thing I've ever been a part of is
yeah.
my children and my wife. So I get it. Um, Talk about because you said faith based. A lot of your like I think it's like 2018 or so. Like a lot of those songs, like you can tell right off the bat that it was faith based, and I don't think you get that so much from at least the songs that I've heard off this new album. Um, was that important for you to kind of include initially?
You mean the music about my faith?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think in the world that I grew up in, the scene I grew up in, being a Christian making rock music was like the least cool thing you could be. So I think I was like conditioned to perceive it that way. And I really became a Christian, like a true like giving my life to this belief around 2012, the kind of the heart of like me touring and playing a lot of music. And so when the band I was in finished and I kind of recalibrated my life, um, I had a lot of music that wasn't Christian, but I began to to write about my experience, my spiritual experiences, because I write about whatever I'm experiencing, religious or non-religious, spiritual, secular, whatever. And when I released, so I've only released one Christian record, unless you count the Christmas record I released. And so I've released, this would be my one, two, three, four. I've released four basically just secular records and one Christian one.
Okay.
And I remember the day I released the Christian one, I was terrified. I put it on Bandcamp for free. I didn't even really tell anybody about it. Um, I remember shaking. I was so afraid. So I was really nervous to do it. I felt like I had to do it in order to just be true to myself. Like leaving that part of my life out of my music felt insincere. And that record now is the one people have heard the most.
Mhm.
Um, and there is something that happens in me when I make music about my faith. I think it's probably because I'm orientating myself towards something bigger than me. And I just think there's kind of a mysterious thing that happens there. And there are moments when I truly feel like this is what I was made to do. Like I was made to make music that's like looking up to something bigger and better. By the way, you can probably hear my 4-year-old jumping around above me, for which I apologize.
Well, you,
Um,
you or me. So,
yeah, fair enough. I mean, even right now, I've been working on this record all year, a new one, and it's faith-based. It's a follow-up to the 2018 release. But I actually think it's really cool because Anthem Sprinter is anything but a Christian record.
mhm.
I mean, I sing about like rolling a joint. I sing about suicide. I sing about, pretty heavy stuff, I guess. And I like that Anthem Sprinter will come out in a couple days, and then my next record will be a faith-based record. To me, life, like if we were to talk about the holistic human experience, we're gonna get all of these things. It's like I find it disappointing when people divorce, especially Christians who make art, and this isn't to like shame anybody, but like if it's all, I guess, praise or worship or whatever you want to call it, if it's all encouraging all the time, it feels insincere.
Mhm.
Because I don't know about you, but being a human is hard.
Yeah.
And so like to me, it's just the the good parts of my life, they take on their meaning because of all the other hard things I've been through.
Right.
And so I think it's kind of cool that Anthem Sprinter will come out and then I'll release my next faith-based record. So,
It's really interesting that you said all that because when I was listening to your earlier stuff and then the songs off this new record coming out, I was like, almost like, wait a minute, am I listening to the same guy? Like,
mhm.
did I click on the wrong name on Spotify? Because yeah, I didn't hear that in these new songs, or not, they're not even new. They're old, but they're new
Yeah.
as of 2 days from now. And when this podcast drops, it'll actually be out for a week or two. But
Okay.
regardless, so yeah, so I was like almost trying to force myself to hear something in these quote unquote newer songs, and I was like, is this the same guy? And it's just kind of cool that you kind of divided that, I guess you could say. Um, and you're right. It's I think when you're right about the faith stuff, it doesn't seem genuine. It almost seems too happy and like life is so perfect and praise be to God and everything's easy through Him. And while that can be true, and I mean I'm a Christian. I grew up in the church and things like that. Um, I kind of distanced myself away from it when my dad had passed because I was struggling with the fact like how could this be happening?
Mm.
Why would you do this to me? And we can get into that. I've kind of found my own reason for it, but um, I'm getting off on a tangent here. But
You're
you're
fine.
right. It does kind of seem like it's. I don't want to say forced because that's not the right word, but how it could seem like not genuine. So I'm glad you
Well,
recognize that, like, because it's living is hard. It's hard to relationships and whether it's work or raising children or whatever it might be. It's hard.
yeah, it is. Um, I think that what I have chosen to do, which is to kind of walk that line and release, secular music, Christian music simultaneously uh, under the same project name, it's not a good recipe for exposure. It's kind of a
Mhm.
bad business move if you're trying to get your music to grow quickly. But what I've found, and I've actually been learning this in the last couple months, because I did a little West Coast tour, and people were coming to see me, and I don't tour very much anymore, and I found that though it's a bad business move because the people who want Christian music all the time, they hear the one Christian record, then they have your experience where they're like, wait, is this the same artist? They find something that they can nitpick over, some lyric that rubs them the wrong way or offends them, and then they write off the entire catalog.
Right.
Similarly, you have those who hear, the records that are just indie rock or loud rock music. Then they discover that I'm a Christian and that I've released, like, for lack of a better term, worship music, and they do the exact same thing. Um, and it's okay. I don't necessarily blame those people,
Mhm.
but what I'm learning is that then there are the people who maybe they've deconstructed, maybe they've left the church, maybe they feel out of place within Christian culture, or maybe they're hungry for something deeper and more meaningful, who find my music and they find the faith-based stuff and the other stuff, and to them it actually creates a whole picture, and then they connect with it, and they connect with it really intensely.
Yeah.
And so it's like, at first what was a bad business decision is actually now creating this pretty, like, beautiful cult following I have, because it feels like the people who are in are like all in.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for it now, but there have been moments where, a radio station won't play my music or a band won't play with me, even though, like, I've had, not to name names, and I will not do that, but I've had, like, secular artists be so excited after hearing my music and seeing me play, and they want to play shows together. And as soon as they realize I also have faith-based music, they can't do it.
Mhm.
Because in our current culture, just like sharing the stage with somebody is endorsing their entire worldview. And I'm sure you've had many discussions about that as a podcaster because
Oh yeah.
it's like the reality of our world.
Yep.
Um, but but then I meet people, Christians, non-Christians, Buddhists, atheists, communists, capitalists, it doesn't matter, who are not concerned with that. And they're just looking for something that is genuine,
Mhm.
quality, concerned with making something that is beautiful, that will make a positive impact on the world, regardless of maybe some of the specifics of the belief system. And those people connect with it. And so that feels really good.
Well, I think it makes you like honest too. Like you're not trying to hide anything. You are what you are, and here's this, and here's this, and I think there's something honorable to be said about that too.
Yeah. Thank you.
What was I gonna say? Crap, crap.
I don't know. I talked for too long. So,
No, it was. This is. I'd rather you talk than me, honestly.
all right.
It was about faith and things like that. Oh, I'm of the belief that good music is good music too. At the end of the day, sometimes I don't even pay attention to lyrics.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I feel that way too. I mean, yeah, I feel that way too.
yeah,
I've actually had, I think mostly it's been Buddhists. I've had people of other faiths connect really intensely with Every Prayer Wide Awake, which is the worship record I made.
mhm.
And I don't know how that works. I don't know how or why, but I've had, like, letters and messages from Buddhists about, which I just think is fascinating.
Yeah, you're making an impact.
Yeah, maybe.
Uh, s- So this album will be out by the time people hear this.
Hmm.
What do you hope to accomplish with this? And you said I think you just got back off of tour. Anything planned for the remainder of the year, or just kind of try and push this record? And and continue working on the new one, which can we expect that to be out next year, or how does that look?
Yeah, the new one will be out next year, I think. It's a very long record, so I think it's going to get split in two. I'm not really sure. Like right now, it sits at like 104 minutes. It is a like
Oh wow.
mammoth. I was kind of like my thinking was I wanted to make the Christian melancholy and the infinite sadness,
Hell
which
yeah.
is yeah. So I'm not kidding. Like that was my thinking. I remember even like saying that to the label people I was talking with. I don't think any of them got it. But yeah, no, with Anthem Sprinter, it's just to release a good record. And I don't push things really hard on people. Like I release a record, I might post about it 3 times. I might post about it again in like a year and say, "Hey,
By the
what you
way,
think?"
yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not interested in bombarding people with what I'm doing. And so I don't have a lot of big plans. I'm playing a Christmas show, the string quartet in December that sold out in a day, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Um, and I do think I'm gonna start touring. I feel something calling me to tour again. Like I actually want to, and I think it's because I'm beginning to experience playing shows to these types of people, the kind of like cult following people who are just so connected to the music. It's a really amazing thing to play the songs for them. Um, but yeah, I think my hope is that, Tooth and Nail fans, alt rock fans, people who listen to Pacific Northwest indie rock will find Anthem Sprinter and enjoy it. And maybe it will inspire some people to write their own loud rock records. But
Yeah.
I don't have big plans.
Well, it sounds like you're in a good place as far as like, I mean, you're really creating music that's, for you too. Like it's like it's like you said earlier, therapeutic and all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
I think that's a good place to be for musicians. You're not so concerned with like, oh, I have to make this great song so that way it gets picked up by a radio station or it gets picked up by whatever it might be. And it's you're just kind of like this is if it goes somewhere, great. But this is for me and this is for people who enjoy my music. And if people like that are happy, then great. If not,
Mhm.
that's okay too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've had artists and songwriters tell you this. I think musicians, filmmakers, authors, creators of all kinds have been saying this for a long time. But the works of art that have longevity and make an impact, I would say, as far as I can tell, and as far as I know from my own experience, they are almost always made like because the artist feels compelled to do so. Um, it's personal, they have a personal connection. They are writing the book that they would want to read, or they're making the film that they would want to watch. So, the record I'm making right now, I am trying my best to make the record that I wish existed that doesn't. And I'm not saying that this is not some prediction that it will go on to make a big impact. What I mean is, I think that's where like the best art comes from. So I'm always encouraging people when people ask me like, what should I like for you with the podcast? And it's like, create the podcast, have the conversations that you wish people were having. Like it's
Mhm.
that simple in my mind. So, I don't even know why I started talking about that, but that's a really important philosophy for me, and
For sure.
I always encouraging people to do it. And yeah, I don't
Well, I
know. I
think
don't
people
know.
are afraid of failure and they don't want to start something because they're afraid that no one's going to like it and they get their own heads and, no one's going to listen and, whatever reason they come up with in their own minds. But I mean, I myself encourage anyone to, if you want to do something, go do it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're happy doing it, that's all that really matters. I mean, I don't do this for a paycheck. I don't receive money for doing that. I do this because I love it.
Hmm.
And I've been fortunate enough to be connected with different people that, have helped me along the way too. So I love doing this. I love talking to musicians and seeing like, where they're from and, how they create and, what they hope to leave behind and,
Hmm.
just the whole process. It's just, I, I hope that, people watch and listen to it and find a new artist. That's really what I hope.
Yeah.
But well, I'm excited for the full length to come out in a couple days. Um, the stuff I've heard so far, like I said, is great. I mean, that Before You Fade Away is a great song. And Anthem Sprinter, what's the title of the album? Anything behind that or
Yeah, it's a Ray Bradbury reference.
okay.
I think since I was young, I've always kind of like littered my music with references to books that I love, authors, the title of a chapter, short story. So Anthem Sprinter is it's a Ray Bradbury short story, and it's about, you know, I want to say like theater attendees who are like they're trying to watch a movie, but then like leave the theater, run as fast as they can out of the theater before the Irish national anthem plays or something. So it actually has nothing to do with my record, but the name intrigues me because this record, from my perspective, is kind of a it's a faster, louder, energetic record with these big choruses.
Hmm.
And so Anthem Sprinter just felt like an appropriate title. Um, and yeah, the cover art, is of this lion attacking a hunter. It's from a book my dad used to read me when I was a kid. Scared the daylights out of me. He would read it to me before bed. It was about like basically hunters getting like attacked and almost killed by wild animals.
Nice.
Um, and so because I remember the time of my life when I wrote these songs as a time of fear and a time of chaos, just precarious days and nights. I was just always like on the edge. So that album art felt appropriate. So yeah, the combination of the album art and the name, I don't know, it just hit. I like it.
I think it's great. Like I said, these songs I've heard, they really take you somewhere, and it the progression and it's like it doesn't like fall flat. It's like it takes you to a place, and then it's like, boom. It's awesome. So
Thank you.
I'm excited for the whole thing.
Thank you.
I want to let you go so you can get back to your wife and children.
Thank you.
It's very important. But yeah, thank you for the time. I wish you the best of luck with the release of this, and then the release of your new one.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much, John. Look forward to, I guess, going on and listening to other episodes of your podcast.
Oh, great. That'd be awesome.
Did I see that you'd interviewed who was on the list? Was because I get, the press release, it shows all the different podcasts I'm on.
Okay.
Have you interviewed Everclear? Or was that the one before
I
me?
have, yes. Yep.
I was in Portland this last weekend, and anytime I'm in Portland, all I can do is sing Everclear choruses.
That was like a childhood, like if you told 15-year-old John he'd be interviewing Art from Everclear, he'd laugh at you and be like, "There's no way."
Super cool.
And well, it was super embarrassing too because I said his last name wrong. I've been saying his last name wrong for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he corrected me too. He's like, "Whoa, wait." That was embarrassing. That's how it started off. I'm like, okay, this is I'm an idiot. But
I'm
yeah,
sure now I have to listen to it.
yeah. Yeah, I've done him. I've done the Verve Pipe.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's an honor for me to be able to do that and just share your stories, and I know those big guys have told their stories 1,000 times, so like it's kind of gets watered down a bit, but I mean I don't discount the opportunity at all. So,
Yeah.
but a generic end of episodes, where can people find you online?
I mean, you can Google my name, but I mean, I always point people to my Bandcamp page. Like
Okay.
if you want to buy LPs, if you want to buy merch when I make it, Bandcamp, I think it's I am John Van Deusen is technically my Bandcamp URL. Um, and I mean, I do post to Instagram. I'm not great at updating or creating content, but like I do tell people what's going on Instagram. So if you want to stay like in tune with what I'm doing, tuned in, maybe is the better way to say it. That's a great way to do it. Um, but yeah, no, you can find a lot of my music online for free. And that's important to me. Like this record, the Christian one we're talking about, like if you're looking for a kind of weird DIY, lo-fi worship record. You can find it on Bandcamp for pay what you want, and it does not bother me if you buy it for free. In fact, if you get it for free, it makes me really happy. I just ask that if you download it for free and you like it, tell somebody about it.
Right.
So, anyways, Bandcamp's the place.
All right.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate
John,
it.
thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Sorry I went a little over. Get back to your kids and your wife.
Oh,
And
we're
I will follow you on well, I already do, but I will continue to do so. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right, man. Take care.
See ya.
See ya.